it's just Charles here today. I want to talk about zines a little bit. So there's an upcoming zine party that's going on from Shelf Life Books and Community-Wise Resource Center in November 12th of 2022 here in Calgary. It's had me thinking about zines. I've never done a whole lot of them since I'm pretty new to the scene, and I've done, when you're younger, you tend to build things in this way, and then sometimes you kind of gravitate away from it. So I'm kind of rediscovering zines and seeing some amazing stuff that people are doing, and it's got me thinking about creating stuff like that for myself and exploring things like folding and binding and how to make it super easy on myself in terms of production. Because I'd like to put these together rather quickly, even have the possibility of putting some together at the show. I believe Gordo and I will be there unless something falls through. So I kind of wanted to go over a few different things, and I've kind of got sort of some simple zines done in 3 different ways here. So like I said, I wanted production to be super easy on myself. I think about production a lot. I also think about how I want to make it simple and no headaches and as small amount of handling and sort of points of failure as possible. So for these ones here, all of them, you really just need 3 things: your paper, scissors, and a stapler. And then of course you need your big beautiful brain to and maybe a couple of writing utensils to come up with the way to do it. Of course, you might be doing these on a Xerox machine or on a photocopier once you've completed them, or you might be making this digitally. But I want to go over the production side of things. And it's often helpful to think about production first in the very first step rather than the last step, because everything that you do is informed by how you're going to create it. It has to become real in this case. So I've got 3 different ways here of doing this. So the very first one, this is sort of your classic 8-page zine. I see a lot of people doing this. I'll show you why it's so simple, but also what I kind of don't like about it. So hopefully this doesn't mess you up as I go through it. The way I number things, I look at everything from sort of a more production standpoint and like a designer. So I think about it as front and back covers, and then all of my panels inside are my actual pages. And lots of times when I'm making, say, booklets, I think about the inside front cover as also something that's kind of a non-content page. But when it comes to a zine, I want to get started right away. So you can see I've got 6 panels plus my front and back cover for an 8-page zine. This one's pretty simple. It needs no stapling, needs just a little bit of cutting and your own creativity. So this one, why it's so simple and why a lot of people gravitate to it is it's done on a single sheet of paper and just the one side. So as you see here, I've kind of got my pages mapped out, and you see you've got your front and back cover, your first 2 panels, and then your other panels done the other way around. So when I'm setting this up from a new piece of paper, what I would do is I would fold it to make my fold marks on it so that I know exactly where my panels are. And something that's really powerful about this is each of these spreads you've got these sort of 3 spreads plus your cover. It gives you lots of leeway about how you build that and how you illustrate it and how you design it. When you go to put it together, you've got 2 different kinds of folds. This is your hamburger fold. You see we're kind of doing it over in this sort of stout way. And you've got what's called a hot dog fold, which is done so you can picture like a hot dog bun sitting that way, or like a hamburger bun sitting that way. So when I go to put this together, I fold it in the hamburger way, take my scissors, and I do this single cut on the first panel. That allows me to then take that page, open it up, squeeze it together a little bit like an accordion, and fold that over. And you can see it's created this sort of diamond. And then taking my front and back cover, folding it over, and you've got a zine here. Now, what I don't like about this format, and why I sometimes might not be using it, is as you flip through it here, if you want it to remain that way, you've got these sort of extra extra folds that can kind of get in the way as people are going, and you got a lot of wasted real estate. Some people, what they will do is they'll take a dot of glue and stick those pages, especially on that bottom corner where people will be flipping with their thumb. So I think it's a little less than ideal in that way, but something you could do to make this really fun is you've got your 8-page zine and you could also leave it untouched without glue, which I don't like to use. And then they've got the possibility of flipping it open, and you could do something on the inside. You could do sort of more poster style, or you could do more content in here. This gets a bit confusing, and then you've got that little bit of a danger with this slit here that damage could occur. They could have trouble putting it back together, that sort of a thing. So you can get yourself into a little bit of a pickle that way. So to me, that's sort of what I see a lot of people doing, and this is not the only way to do this sort of way of doing it. Some people are doing some really elaborate ways. I've seen some great videos where people are actually doing more slits, and then there was one person who goes by the name of Autumn who had it that they were taking pages out of them with the slit and then wrapping them over and creating a really nicely like glued bound style almost cover. But that's more handling than I want. I want this super simple. I want something that I can whip together at a show. So that gives you one way. Second way we're going to look at here, this is my 16-page zine layout that has no binding, and it folds out to a full sheet. I got a little bit of inspiration as I was playing around, going through lots of pieces of paper, folding and trying to discover some good binding ways. I got some inspiration watching the YouTube channel for Fold Factory. They do this fold of the week, and they happen to have one where they showed two different marketing pieces that use this style, and I like it so much because I get to put the stapler away and not worry about that. Put the scissors away. There's none of that either. It's all done with folding. It's all simple 90-degree half folds, and you come up with an interesting layout that actually plays with the format quite a bit. So you get your front and back cover once again, and as you fold it out, you get two panels there. It flips open again, revealing 4 more panels, and then you open again, just like a book style, to reveal the remaining 8 panels. So this gives you lots of things that you could play with, and you could also, rather than doing the individual panels the way it is, you get to play with more splash page sort of layouts here if you wish. You could do all sorts of stuff. You could have a poster on the inside, or you could have, gives you room for more content in different ways. And that's something that appeals to me, because then I can take away the sort of the mundane portion of it and do something pretty wild. So the nice thing about that as well is your layout in terms of how your page goes, front and back cover, a spread for 5 and 6, spread for 1 and 2, spread for 3 and 4, are all laid out really simple. You don't have to think about too much stuff. And it's simply hamburger fold, hamburger fold, hamburger fold. And that's the whole thing. So I like that quite a bit. I'm going to probably explore some things with that. This is probably the most complicated one here, my third way. But it arguably gives you the best finished piece. So this is a 16-page zine with binding and a finished trim. So I'll talk about that in a second, what that means. So you can see here, it's a what we call saddle stitched. It's got 2 staples, little booklet, and it's got your front and back cover and 14 pages for a total of 16. So this is all made, again, from a single piece of paper. This one uses a little bit of stapling, a little bit of cutting. Scissors work. I like to use a rotary cutter, but that's use what the tools you have and what you like the best. So what's cool about this is when you take your page here, here's my 16-page zine sort of template layout. This one, you have to play around a little more. So this could be not ideal for if you wanted to work with only larger spreads, like some of these other examples had, where you're able to work across the spreads. This one has 3 spreads you get to work with, but then there's a little bit of futzing around. So you got your back cover and your front cover. And then you see it's a bit tricky here because you got them going the other way around. I like to put marks showing the way, which way is up as I go. And you can see on the inside that you got a little bit of futzing around. And you get a couple of spreads. You get a spread here, you get a spread there. These ones are split. So that spread's split, that spread is split. So if you wanted to do more ones that go over what they call the gutter, over the center binding area, you don't have all of them to do that, but you have some. Once again, this one's split, but this one's together. So you could do more of a spread there if you want to go across the gutter. These other ones, you could do it, but it's a bit trickier, right? Because you have to go towards the fold and you don't know exactly, is that going to line up perfect? You know, there's not a ton of folding and crazy stuff here, but you never know. So the nice thing about this one, it's once again hamburger, hamburger, hamburger. In the same way that I did the no binding fold out sheet. But you now take your stapler and you drive 2 staples through that. You drive it there, fold on it, and you've got your finished booklet. And now what you need to do in order to free these pages that are held by folded paper is you then take your scissors or your rotary cutter and you're actually trimming off of 3 edges. All your edges except for the binding, of course. You don't want to cut there because you got your staples in there, but you're cutting across the top, cutting across the bottom, cutting across the outside. And that frees all of these pages that are locked away by the folded paper. The nice thing about this, and why I think this is a fun one from a creative point of view, is depending on how much you're willing to lose on these 3 sides, you can then be creating something that you are drawing towards the outside of the page and knowing they'll be cut off and you get these nice full bleed. So you're drawing in your creativity right to the edges of the finished paper. Of course, when you're doing it from a letter size piece of paper like I've done here, you don't have a lot to give up. But if you were to do this from say a legal or a ledger, an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, suddenly you've got a lot more leeway and you've got some really creative options there. So that's it. There are a million other different ways and people are doing some really wild stuff. This is just 3 very simple ways to do this that I think are good for if you just want to do something quick, have it easy, and have your production not be a headache without going into really insane folds. But let the possibilities are really endless, so let yourself go on that. I hope this is helpful. If you got other ways that you like to do it, or other especially simple ways you like to put together zines, please share them with us because I'd love to hear more. I'm really just scratching the surface. I just wanted to look at 3 very easy, simple, sort of elementary ways of doing this in order to just start knocking out some content. But I'd love to hear what everyone else is doing on this. And if you will be at the zine party at Shelf Life Books on November 12th of this year, I hope I get to meet you there. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.